be here with my fellow caretakers. And yes, I called you caretakers because you take the responsibility to take care of yourself and those around you. You take care of the people that can't defend themselves, and that is so important. The media would have America think that gun owners do not care about others, but in fact, the truth is the complete opposite. Many of us openly cry when we see school shootings. We would be the first to run into a building if we thought we could save one life. We are the caretakers. As a caretaker, our most important job is protecting those around us. Our most basic right, the basic right, is the right of self-defense. We have no other rights if we can't defend ourselves. It doesn't matter what you have. If you can't defend yourself, it can be taken away. I am not here to talk about the Second Amendment because I believe that the right to self-defense is a God-given right that no government can ever take away. It is not a right that 9 judges in Washington, D.C. can overturn. It is not a right that Congress can take away from us. It is our fundamental right as human beings to defend ourselves. The right of self-defense must be upheld as the cornerstone of our civilization. Nothing I have ever read or seen tells me that humanity has fundamentally changed since the dawn of time. There are those that follow the law, like us, and those that will not, and those that will manipulate the laws to gain power and money. Human history is full of examples of those in power abusing the people they swore to protect. We should not have to make the same mistakes over and over to learn from them. We can look at the over 200 million people killed by their own governments in the last century to understand that we are no more than cattle to those in power. I do not feel the need to live through a purge, a genocide, ethnic cleansing, a Tiananmen Square, or any other mass slaughter to understand what the Jews mean when they say, never again.
That's right. Woo!
They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't doubt it one bit.
Yeah.
The Gun-Free Zone Act of 1990 was passed with good intentions by most, but I don't believe that those that truly understood the implications of the bill had good intentions. They had to know that children would die because they were left undefended.
Yeah.
They had to know that. How naive do you have to be to think that a sign that says gun-free zone protects anyone?
Yeah.
No matter what their intentions were, this is the result. Our children are corralled in gun-free zones where monsters can kill without fear of retaliation.
Yeah.
They have been herded into kill zones for political correctness. The unintended consequences of this law has left us with a generation of students that did not learn firearm safety and have no familiarity with firearms.
Yeah.
They have been taught an irrational fear of weapons, and it's no surprise that they are marching for change. Let us imagine that every firearm in the world magically disappeared. Would we be safe from violence? No. We only have to look at a prison to see how society works without weapons. The strong prey on the weak.
There you go.
The weak try to survive in any way they can. In fact, if it is absolute safety that you crave, solitary confinement is the only solution I can think of where you can be safe from violence.
There you go.
We have to understand that if every firearm was destroyed, the most dangerous weapon the world has ever seen would still be everywhere. Because the most dangerous weapon in existence is the human mind. There's nothing deadlier than a human that has decided to do violence. They will find a way. We can't stop them by just passing laws. We have seen it over and over. Knives, trucks, cars, fertilizer and diesel. It doesn't matter. Monsters will find a way to kill. The only thing that has and will work to stop them is a good guy with a gun.
That's right.
We just proved that in Maryland this week when Deputy Blaine Gaskill stopped a would-be mass murderer before his attack can be completed. He deserves our thanks. Gun grabbers argue that if some of the classes of firearms were outlawed, then attacks would not be as bad, and they hold the Australian gun ban as an example of how there's not been a mass shooting since it was enacted. But life in Australia without the right to defend yourself is not as nice as you'd think. Let me tell you the real consequences. My nephew lives in Australia. He's a strong young man. He can ride 40, 50 miles on his mountain bike. Doesn't bother him a bit. One sunny afternoon a couple years back, he was riding past a park and some young men started calling him names. And he's not the type of person that takes being called names. So he stopped and confronted him. The teenagers decided to teach the Yank a lesson and swarmed him. They knocked him off his bicycle, beating him to the ground. 8 teenagers took turns attacking him. One of them got creative and pulled the chain off his bike and whipped his head and face with it. Across the street, defenseless homeowners watched in horror as the young man was beaten senseless. Finally, he was left in a pool of blood, comatose, and one eye destroyed from the bicycle chain. The story doesn't stop there, though. You see, he did recover. He got out of the hospital, and as he's walking through his neighborhood, one of the fathers of the young men that attacked him started screaming and chasing him, threatening to kill him because his child was now in jail. All he could do was run to his home, barricade himself behind the door, and call the police as the man tried to beat the door in and attack him once again. But because he had no way to defend himself, he had to wait for somebody to come save him. He was lucky that time. This is what life in a country where you're not allowed to protect yourself from criminals looks like. Living here in Montana, we don't often stop and think about why it's safe to walk down almost any street. Home invasions are almost non-existent. That's because we have the right to practice self-defense. Those of you that refuse to protect yourselves or your families, cash in on the dividends that our preparedness as gun owners has generated.
Yep.
So, when people start talking about banning firearms for the safety of the children, I get mad. Because I know the safety of the children is endangered by short-sighted ideas. You see, we've read the playbook of the gun grabbers. It starts with semi-automatic firearms, then we lose our handguns. Then our scoped rifles that somehow magically become sniper rifles. In the end, we will end up with single-shot rifles locked securely in a safe.
Nope.
Well, we were told, see, we told you we wouldn't take away the Second Amendment. You still have your guns. Newsflash, we are not going to play your game.
That's right.
We will keep the weapons we have and protect our families, and you too. Even if you don't want us to protect you, we will. We We will keep the weapons that will protect us from whatever danger comes along. Our rights entitle us to self-defense, and that means we need weapons that are the equivalent to the greatest threat we may meet. That means we will keep our semi-auto firearms. We will keep our high-cap mags.
Yep.
We will keep our pistols.
Yep.
And we will not play your silly game, because if you win, only sad notations in a history book from another generation will be left. And they will be left repeating, never again, never again. Thank you.